It's the lab.
Lucky's test results.
Nurse Baldwin.
At the time, Elizabeth Weber was working as a nurse at General Hospital, and she had every reason to believe that she should be knocked off her feet. However, on this particular day, it must have seemed as though people were literally pouring out in droves to make sure that she was knocked off her feet. She found her professional life to be exhausting, and her home life was frequently chaotic. Today, she had the impression that everything was coming closer and closer to approaching her. Elizabeth Sullivan, who was determined to achieve her goals, had no reason to knock on the door when she came across Terry Randolph, her closest friend and confidant, who was pouring a pot of coffee. In any case, Terry was on the verge of attempting to say something kind when the woman with the rat face and big eyes hurt her eyes with how messy she appeared at that very time. "Is that Liz?" In the process of closing the file that she had been reviewing, Terry exclaimed, "What exactly is going on?" She let out a long sigh and then sat down in the chair that was just across from Terry's desk. For all intents and purposes, the glide of her hand over the dark hair was sufficient to convey her feelings. "Where exactly do I even begin?" And frustrated Elizabeth uttered the words. A concern from a companion. The brow of Terry's head was furrowed as she leaned forward. "Okay, let's take a moment to relax and take a deep breath. Beginning with the very first step. Would you be referring to the hospital? Which boys? Is it Finn?" The reason for this is that Elizabeth rolled her eyes at the charming individual she had been gradually coming to know when she heard the name Dr. Hamilton Finn. The response that she gave was, "All of the above, and even more." He nods in agreement. Elizabeth was in need of a release. "I am present. It's time to let it out." The stress caused by work. Taking a deep breath, Elizabeth pulled in her breath as the remainder of her words began to jumble together. At the outset, there is effort. As a result of the busy season, the hospital is in a condition of complete and utter chaos. "Even though there is a lot of competition in the market," he remarked. "So I'm running a short staff. The new interns don't know their arse from their elbow. And if I get any more entitled bastard patients expecting preferential treatment, then frankly, I can't do this. This is because there's a lot of competition in the market." Terry smiled with a compassionate touch. "A typical day in the life of a nurse, I suppose you could say." In continuation, Elizabeth stated, "Yes, but more than that. I have a lot of love for my profession, Terry, but it may be irritating when no one acknowledges how much you and I put in. We put in an excessive amount of effort, yet we are not compensated well, and we are expected to keep going despite." In agreement, Terry stated, "You are absolutely right. Liz, you are taking on a lot of responsibility," remarked a voice that was in the back of my head, "and that it is acceptable to experience feelings of being overwhelmed. Concerns relating to the family." Regarding the confirmation, Elizabeth nodded, expressing gratitude. Still, she was not finished. "Then there are my sons and daughters. Even though Cameron is making greater progress in his adjustment to school, I am still concerned about him. He has been through a lot of things. Despite the fact that Aiden is doing fantastic, Jake has been acting in a weird manner. This is withdrawn. It's simply that I have the impression that he is keeping something from me, but he won't let me in." Terry wore a frown. "The question is, have you discussed it with him in person?" "Of course I have," Elizabeth shouted with a sigh. "However, he just states that he is okay, and then moves on to more interesting issues. My heart is broken because it seems as though he no longer trusts me." The calming hand of Terry had been placed on Elizabeth's shoulder as he leaned over the desk. In addition to that, Jake has been through a lot, Liz. Allow him some time. You may expect him to come and get you when he is ready. Discouraging romantic moments. Elizabeth let out a more profound sigh this time. In addition to that, there is Finn. It caused Terry's eyebrows to rise. What actions did Finn take? It is not exactly what he did, Elizabeth said with a confident shake of her head. What he did not do is the issue. Sometimes I feel like I am the one who needs to make an effort because he is so preoccupied with his own life, with his patients, with his feelings of guilt about Reiko, and with his problems with his brother. I have been making an effort to be patient, but how much longer do I have to patiently wait for him to make an effort that is on par with mine? After giving it some thought for a while, Terry cocked her head. I take it you have already shared your feelings with him, right? Elizabeth was still unsure. I tried to tell him about it, but he became defensive each time I brought it up. Then I start to feel insane, as if I am asking for too much. Put an end to it, Terry stated in a resolute manner. You are simply absent. With every partnership, there are two sides to consider. You require someone who is acting in the same manner, just as you deserve to be treated. The haunted remains of the past. According to his response, it was a much-needed distraction for Elizabeth, who had also been plagued by thoughts of her late husband, Franco Baldwin. These recollections had been haunting her for quite some time. Even after a considerable amount of time had passed, she continued to grieve over his loss, and she compared every other man to him for the purpose of comparison. It's not fair, how about that? With a low voice, Elizabeth said, I am referring to Finn. The comparison between him and Franco is something that I'm constantly doing, and I hold him to an absurdly high bar. However, I am unable to stop myself. Up until Franco, no one has ever been able to comprehend me. With a slight smile, Terry gave a slight nod. Liz, this has absolutely nothing to do with being fair. Be honest with yourself and with Finn. This is the one thing you absolutely must try to do. If you are not yet prepared to move on, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. If you are, however, you must allow Finn to enter your life in its whole, flaws and all, and you must do it without reservation. As Elizabeth struggled to stop the tears from falling from her eyes, she continued to lick her lips. The answer is yes, Terry. Absolutely I do, but it is very difficult. Advice from a companion. Getting up from her desk, Terry moved over to Elizabeth and sat down next to her. She then put her arm around Elizabeth's shoulders and sat down. Liz, you're one of the most badass women I know. Despite everything you have been through, you are still here making a name for yourself. On the other hand, you do not have to attempt to complete everything by yourself. Another day of his life falling apart, those tales that you have told, which have definitely never taken place, let us assist you. Refocus your attention on the people who love you. Elizabeth was grateful that her friend had always been there to catch her, and she started to melt into Terry. With a crack in her voice, she said, I have no idea what I would do without you. Terry gave a friendly smile. It is not necessary for you to find out this information on your own. I'll always have your back, I promise. Ways to move forward. The silence lasted for a few moments, and then Elizabeth sat up straight and rubbed her eyes. It is my pleasure, Terry. I was in need of this. It was necessary for me to get things off my chest and simply be listened to. Terry wore a grin. At any time. So what exactly is the plan? Your plan is to deal with all that has happened. Elizabeth took a deep breath, and in that moment, she felt a little lighter. One step at a time, I say. Perhaps I will get in touch with Jake once again and make an effort to coax him out without being overly demanding. And with regard to Finn, After a brief pause for reflection, she proceeded with her argument. I really ought to have a conversation with that individual. Regarding the issues at hand, there is no room for ambiguity. To ensure that this endeavor is successful, it is imperative that we are truthful with one another. Terry gave a gesture of approval. The Elizabeth Weber that I recall is the one described above. Strong and unafraid to take a position for what is right, and that is vital. A grin, albeit a small one, was managed by Elizabeth. I simply hope that it is sufficient. A glimmer of positivity. For the first time in more than a year, Elizabeth experienced a sense of empowerment with the moment she stepped out of Terry's office. Despite the fact that it had never been simple, perhaps life in Port Charles was only ever destined to be difficult. She ended up gracefully withdrawing from the situation this time. Elizabeth went back to Terry and her own voice like if it were a bouquet of flowers in her hands, and she made up her mind that she would face every hurdle along the way with the same level of strength that she had experienced in the past, despite the fact that the problems that lay ahead appeared to be more significant than they had ever been. Although she did not have all the answers, she did, for the first time in a very long time, have the feeling that there was a way forward. And that was something that she believed was good enough to be a B. Anna Devane was sitting at a table in the Metro Court's shadowy corner, staring at her cup of tea, which she had not yet sipped while she was there. As the steam swirled in languid spirals up and away into the air, it eventually disappeared entirely, much like the hope that she had been clinging to for dear life as of late. She was overcome with feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, and regret, and she was saddened by the fact that she could only talk to one friend, Felicia Scorpio, who was both her oldest and best friend. Anna was jolted out of her daydream by the sound of a single clink caused by approaching heels. She turned her head to look up and saw Felicia seated opposite her, with a look of concern written all over her face and intense blue eyes. Anna was the recipient of Felicia's soft touch, and she informed her buddy. As soon as I was able to, I arrived. What exactly is going on? A smirk appeared on Anna's face, but it was so mild that it never reached her eyes. Happy that you were able to make it, Felicia. To him. There was never anyone else I could have spoken that to. When Felicia tilted her head, the gentleness that was present in her gaze transformed into something that was more encouraging. In spite of the fact that it is what you will be able to tell me, you are aware of that. A weighty obligation. After pausing for a moment, Anna almost tightened her hold on the white china coffee cup that was in front of this woman. It's everything, Felicia, she said. Everything from the consequences of Victor's rampage to the circumstances surrounding my own career to the individuals I've lost is coming back to me. And I have no idea how I will be able to recover from this. In response, Felicia found herself nodding, which gave her buddy the opportunity to reflect on the situation. Anna, for such a long time, Victor was a shadow that hung over all of us. However, you maintained your resolve. You were the one who triumphed over him in the end. However, at what price? With a voice that was hardly audible above a whisper, Anna interjected. To Peter, to Valentine, and to my own sense of guilt. The cost of winning is always higher than I am able to pay for it. This caused Felicia to shed a few tears for her friend. Anna, you have been through more than 99% of people are able to comprehend. It is not necessary for you to bear this burden on your own. You are not in this situation by yourself. The haunted remains of the past. During the course of that journey, Anna took a deep breath and reflected on the people she had lost along the way. Are you, Felicia? Have you ever given any thought to the fact that things may have easily gone in a different direction? What if we had come to a different conclusion or taken a different course of action? Felicia sat back in her chair, her eyes beginning to close, and she gave the question some thought for a while. She readily admitted, every single time. I have realized, however, that obsessing about the what-ifs will never influence the outcome of the situation. The only thing that it takes away from you today is your tranquility. With a sour chuckle, Anna laughed. The peace. On the other hand, something that appears to be an alien concept in this day and age. At a distance from Valentine. Are we talking about Valentine here? Felicia inquired in a soft voice. The mere mention of his name caused Anna to take a deep breath and clench her abdominal muscles. To some extent, she conceded. I truly believe that after everything that we discussed and went through, we had finally arrived at a point where we were on firm ground. However, at this moment, well, it seems too strange to express here. Simply put, he is in a great deal of discomfort, and I am at a loss on how to get through him. Suddenly, Felicia's expression softened. Anna, Valentine has feelings for you. That was obvious to anyone who witnessed the two of you spending time together. However, love does not make pain go. Having patience is essential at times. What if I don't have all the time of the world? There was a slight tremor in her voice as Anna posed the question. What if he returns and finds that he is fatigued from fighting for us? Felicia reached out her hand and covered Anna's with her own for a moment. One thing I am aware of about Valentine is that he does not like to give up, and he does not give up on anyone, but especially not on you. The struggle to find oneself. With her eyes fixed on the horizon, Anna turned around. It's not only Valentine, she said. This is me. Since the beginning of my life, my identity has been inextricably linked to the job that I do and the cause that I pursue. On the other hand, having no notion who I am or even who I am, in order to convey her feelings of compassion for her close buddy, Felicia made a face. That being said, Anna, you are more than just the work that you do, right? Not only are you a mother, but you are also a friend, and you are so much more than that even if you are a mother. You are a woman who cannot contain the tremendous love fires that are burning in your heart and the wandering storms that are occurring between your ears. If you want to be different, you must not let the past or the unknowns convince you otherwise. On the other hand, Anna shook her head, knowing that every feeling she was experiencing was threatening to emerge from its hiding place and drown her. All of these years, I had constructed barriers, put space between myself and other people, and assured myself that this was for the better. However, for the time being, perhaps I was just trying to escape myself. The insights of Felicia. Using a tone that was gentle yet resolute, Felicia closed the distance. Anna, you have been through experiences that the majority of people are unable to comprehend. And sure, you did make a mistake. Similarly to the rest of us, you did as well. Nevertheless, those errors are not the end-all and be-all of the situation. It is what you do after that that is important. Well, unless you are texting while driving, in which case things are different. As Felicia's words registered in her ears, Anna opened her eyes and swallowed forcefully. Dear Felicia, I am unsure whether or not it is possible for me to proceed any farther. I will continue to fight. Felicia gave Anna's hand a gentle squeeze. Yes, you are. It's something you've always had, Anna. My list of the 5 most powerful persons I know includes you. But you do not have to travel by yourself. Invite your loved ones to join you. Please let me in. A brief period of exposure to risk. Despite her best efforts, Anna was unable to stop the tears from falling this time round. Her voice was shaking as she spoke, And she continued, Felicia, I'm so tired. Being strong and having to always be the glue is something that I am becoming tired of. Felicia sat down in the next chair and encircled her boyfriend with her arms. Anna, you can't always be strong even when you're not. It is acceptable to rely on the assistance of other people. That is the reason why we have friends. Anna began to cry, and when the dam broke, she clutched Felicia close to her heart. She was finally able to let go, and for the very first time in what seemed like an eternity, she allowed herself to cry. A glimmer of positivity. After her tears had finally faded, Anna turned away from the window and wiped her eyes while laughing uncontrollably. This was her attempt to lighten the mood, and she laughed out loud. In addition to providing her a napkin, Felicia smiled. Your appearance suggests that you are at last allowing yourself to feel, and that is a positive development. An overwhelming sense of relief washed over Anna, and she took a deep breath. It is my pleasure, Felicia. I don't know what I would do without you. A confident statement was made by Felicia, who stated, You won't ever have to find out. Always remember that I am here for you. Taking steps forward. As the two women sat together, Anna felt a slight reduction in the amount of pressure she was under. It was unclear to her if she would be able to make amends with Valentine, reclaim her life, or find peace with the events of the past. However, this is the first time in a long time that she has experienced the sensation of not having to go through everything by herself. With Felicia as her support, Anna had the confidence that she could continue. Moreover, that was adequate for the time being.
Sam died.
The air in Port Charles was thick with tension as one of its most enduring deuce. Jason Morgan and Carly Spencer found themselves at odds. Jason, the stoic enforcer with an unshakable sense of loyalty, and Carly, the fiery force of nature who wouldn't take no for an answer, were at a breaking point. This was more than just a disagreement. It was a clash of wills that had the potential to fracture their unshakable bond. The meeting that set it all off, Carly stormed into Sunny's former penthouse, where Jason was temporarily staying. She didn't bother knocking. The urgency in her step demanded immediate answers. Jason was seated at the desk, reviewing papers that looked more like mob logistics than anything related to normal life. Jason, what the hell is going on? Carly demanded, slamming the door behind her. Jason didn't flinch. His calm demeanor was almost infuriating as he glanced up briefly and said, I'm busy, Carly. Carly crossed the room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor like thunder. You're always busy, Jason. Busy hiding things from me. Don't think I don't know about the meeting with Selena Wu. Jason stiffened, his grip on the papers tightening. That's none of your business. Carly's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and betrayal. None of my business. Everything you do is my business when it involves our family. What are you planning, Jason? And don't give me that it's safer if you don't know crap. Jason leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable. Carly, you need to let this go. It's better for everyone if you're not involved. Carly pushes back. But Carly Spencer was never one to back down. She placed her hands on the desk, leaning in as she stared Jason down. I'm not some clueless outsider, Jason. I've been in this life as long as you have. I've bled for this family. So, don't tell me to stay out of it. Jason stood, towering over Carly with his imposing presence, but his voice remained calm. This isn't about questioning your loyalty or your strength. It's about keeping you safe. Carly scoffed, stepping back with a sarcastic laugh. Safe? Don't give me that. I've been safe since the day I met you and Sunny, right? This is about you thinking you can carry the weight of the world on your shoulders while keeping me in the dark. You're shutting me out, Jason, and I won't stand for it. Jason's reluctance to reveal the truth. Jason turned away, his back to Carly as he stared out the window overlooking the city. He knew Carly had a point. She had been through walls, betrayals, and heartbreak alongside him and Sunny. But this time felt different. There's too much at stake, Jason finally said, his voice low. If I tell you what's going on, you'll get pulled in, and that puts a target on your back. Carly's voice softened, but her resolve didn't waver. When has there ever not been a target on my back? You think I'm scared of that? Jason, I've faced worse than whatever Selena Wu or Cyrus Renault can throw at me. What I can't handle is feeling like I don't matter to you. Like my opinion doesn't count. Jason turned around, his expression pained. You matter more than anyone, Carly. That's why I can't risk it. An emotional stalemate. The room was silent for a long moment as Carly studied Jason, trying to read between the lines of his cryptic words. She knew him better than anyone, and yet there was something he wasn't saying. You're not telling me everything, she said quietly. This isn't just about Selena Wu, is it? Jason didn't respond, and that silence spoke volumes. Carly's frustration bubbled to the surface again, and she threw her hands up in exasperation. Fine. Keep your secrets, Jason. But don't come crying to me when everything blows up in your face. Because it will. Jason's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Carly grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, pausing only to throw one last parting shot over her shoulder. You always say you're protecting me, Jason. But sometimes, I think you're just protecting yourself. With that, she was gone, leaving Jason alone in the silence of the penthouse. Carly's next move. As Carly drove away, her mind raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Jason was involved in was bigger than he was letting on. Her instincts told her to dig deeper, and Carly Spencer always trusted her instincts. Her first stop was the Metro Court, where she found Sam McCall sitting at the bar. Carly hesitated for only a moment before approaching. Sam, I need your help, Carly said, sliding into the seat next to her. Sam raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. This should be good. What's going on? It's Jason, Carly admitted. He's keeping something from me, and I need to know what it is. You know him better than anyone. If anyone can get through to him, it's you. Sam's expression darkened. Jason doesn't tell anyone anything unless he wants to. You know that, Carly. But you've worked with him, Carly pressed. You know how his mind works. If you won't help me talk to him, at least help me figure out what he's up to. Sam hesitated, clearly torn. On one hand, she understood Carly's frustration. On the other, she didn't want to betray Jason's trust. I'll think about it, she finally said, though her tone made it clear she wasn't promising anything. Jason's dilemma. Back at the penthouse, Jason sat in silence, replaying the argument in his head. He hated fighting with Carly, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was doing the right thing by keeping her at arm's length. His phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. It was a text from Sunny. Need to talk. Selena's making moves. Jason sighed and grabbed his jacket. He knew he couldn't afford to let his personal feelings cloud his judgment. The situation with Selena Wu was escalating, and if he didn't act fast, it could spiral out of control. The fallout. As the episode drew to a close, the fallout from Jason and Carly's argument began to take shape. Carly was more determined than ever to uncover the truth, even if it meant going behind Jason's back. Jason, meanwhile, was preparing for a confrontation with Selena Wu that could change everything. Their relationship, once a cornerstone of strength in the chaotic world of Port Charles, was now on shaky ground. And as secrets and lies continued to build between them, the question remained, could Jason and Carly find their way back to each other? Or was this the beginning of the end for their unbreakable bond? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Port Charles was in for a storm, and Jason and Carly were at the center of it.